Time to take everything we've learned so far and build a model. Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, another back to basics video for you. This one's slightly different from the previous ones. In this one, I'm actually going to build one of those Space Marines from the box of Marines that I had. I'm going to build it, I'm going to convert it, I'm going to try and use as many of the techniques that we previously talked about in this video, so you can actually see some of those techniques in action. And at the end of the video, hopefully we'll have a really cool looking converted model, and then we can continue the series with some more tips and tricks. But for now, it's time to build. Okay, so let's build a Space Marine. Now, the techniques that I'm going to use here obviously can be transferred to any particular model. I mean, I'm just using the Space Marine as an example. Now, it's fair to say I have done a little bit of pre-planning so that I know what I'm doing on this video, and I've actually done a tiny bit of work as well, just to make this video run a little bit smoother. So first of all, let's get the bits out that I think I'm going to use for this particular build, which are there. Now straight away you can see that I've got the resin base, which I'm also going to swap out for the original base. So talking of the base and the pose of this model, that's my starting point really, is how to work out how I want to pose the model. Now the way to do that is to glue the bits and pieces together that you feel you want to have glued. So for example, I've already glued the front and back of the body together, just using some plastic glue, because obviously I know that's definitely going to be glued together. And then I went to work using some blue tack, very useful, and I basically worked out the pose that I was going to have by glue tacking the bits and pieces together. Now I have decided that I don't want my guy just standing there on both feet. I want to have a slightly more dynamic pose, and I thought it'd be really cool if I could have his leg like standing on something. So I had a look through my bits box and I came across this Space Wolf head. Well, it's actually a Fenrisian wolf head, and I thought how cool would that be to have the Fenrisian head on the base. Obviously it's going to be like dead, probably his head's chopped off, and then have the Marine standing with one foot on top of the head. So that was my sort of starting point for the pose. So I went about taking the legs. Now obviously the legs are not standing with obviously one leg up in the air, so I went about cutting the leg up. So first of all I sliced off the one leg on one side, and I literally did that with my knife, and I just got my knife and just wiggled it down all the way down. Now it's very important that you use one of these or something or a table that you're not going to damage. So this is great because you can cut on it, you can use super glue, etc. with no issues at all. So once I'd got the leg off, I then knew I was obviously going to have one leg down on the actual ground itself. So I had to get the other leg in sort of an upwards position, which meant making a couple of joins. So I've actually cut off the bottom half of the leg just below the knee, just so I can zoom in a bit. There we go. And then I cut off the piece that goes between there and there. I cut out, and I've actually reshaped it so that I've got a slightly different angle. So when that's all glued together, it will have a different angle. Now I'm going to pin those bits together because there's a chance that I might have to leave a gap and actually green stuff the gap in. And then my idea is to have the guy basically just standing there with, I'm probably going to have him looking up in the air, and then I've got a power fist option, I've got a power weapon option, we're going to magnetise them all up. I've got a bolt gun, a bolt pistol and a plasma pistol option, which again I'm going to magnetise. So these have already had their mould lines removed. You saw me in one of the videos drill out the gun barrel, so I'm going to drill out the other gun barrels now. before I crack on with anything else. Okay, so just like in the pinning video, I'm going to drill out a hole. So that one I've already done. So we have the plasma pistol. So I'm just going to drill out a little hole in that. Then I'm going to find the bolt pistol, and again just drill out a little hole in the front. And also on the side. Like that. Okay, so I've done those, and now I'm going to drill some more holes in this leg section as I've got the pin here. So I'm using the small 1mm drill piece, and this would be ideal because I'm going to use some paper clips. I'm going to drill a hole just in that section, and then I'm going to drill a hole in there, just basically going in the middle area. Then I'm going to drill a hole, a lot of bits here. Where are we? Here we go. I'm going to drill a hole in this leg section. I think I'll probably drill all the way through here, then I can just put the pin right the way in. There we go. Okay, now whilst I've got this, I'm also going to drill some holes in their feet, because I'm going to pin these to the base stroke the wolf head. So again, just going to double check where I'm going and then drill in a hole. One foot and then in the other foot. Actually, I'm not going to drill that one in yet because I don't know exactly where that's going to stand on the wolf head, so I'll leave that pin for now actually. Right, so now we've done that, we are going to start getting some pins. So I have my bag of paper clips, very, very handy. Open one of these up. Like so. So the longest section I'm going to use for the foot, so that I have enough room to push that deep into the cork that I'm going to use when we paint it. So just cut that off, one there and one there. So keep that aside, that's going to be for his foot. Right, so now we're going to cut this. So we'll start with this middle section. I'm going to push that in, just make sure it's there, goes in, there we go. Right, so I'm going to super glue that into position. Just a blob of super glue onto the actual pin, and then push that into the hole like so. I'll just leave that there for a few minutes to dry. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm going to go back to this piece. So this is the wolf head. Now this has this like flat, smooth area. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to green stuff, some sort of blood and guts and stuff coming out of there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to drill out a couple of holes whilst I've got the drill, enabling me to sort of insert some green stuff. So I'm just going to get the bigger drill. So this is the 2 2mm drill. And I'm just going to go in this sort of middle area really, just drill out a few holes. So all this is just give me something just to push the green stuff into when I do the green stuffing. Just a few little holes, that's all. Right, there you go, that will do for that. Okay, so that piece there should be dry now, so I'm going to put that into the holes that we've already made on the leg and the body section, like so. Now there is going to be a little bit of gap, and we can bend that paper clip if we need to bend it at all. And like I said, if there's a little gap, there's not a problem, because we are going to put some green stuff in there as well. So let's get this base back out. I've remembered that I had the wolf head on this way, and the reason why I remembered, which is another little tip, is, just get my phone, is take a picture. If you take a picture of your work, then you can refer back to it. So yeah, I worked out obviously had the head the other way round. So what we're going to do is just dry fit as such this into position. Something like that. He's going to be standing on his back of the head stroke ear, something like that. Yeah, looks pretty cool. Okay, so let's get some glue. So super glue, because although it's a plastic section, we're obviously using that metal pin. So some super glue on there. Pop that in, and then some super glue on this pin. Just there, and then pop that leg in, like so. And then, before it totally dries, pop it into the position you think you want it, and then just leave it for a few seconds. Okay, now just check it. Looks pretty cool. As I said, there's a little gap there which I can green stuff in, no problem. So I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is, whilst that dries, grab again some more blue tack. Just pop that there, and I'm going to just leave that there so that it can dry. Okay, so that's a few minutes later, and that's pretty much dried now, so I'm going to just take that off, and just again do a bit of a dry fit here. So I'm just going to get really low so that I can make sure that the foot is hitting the ground as we want it. Yeah, that is looking pretty cool. I think I might have to move the head of the wolf over slightly. What I'm looking for is a nice flat flush fitting on the base, which is why there's like this little flat rock, and that is where I'm trying to glue the, well, I won't be gluing, I'll be pinning the foot to the base. I'm just making sure I've got a nice fitting. There we go. That is looking pretty cool. So it's going to be basically like that. Right, so what I'm going to do now is blue tack his foot into position so we can work on the rest of the pose. So a little bit of blue tack. Let's get him standing roughly where we think he's going to be. So he's going to be something like that. So just show you a bit closer. There we go. Looking pretty cool. Right, so now we're going to have a look at the rest of the body. So like I said, I've already glued these together, and the body is going to be like so. And what you're going to be looking to do is basically angle the body so that it looks very natural. You don't want to be angling this body in a ridiculous position like this, for example. So, you know, try and work out, even to the point of stand, you know, physically stand, how that model is standing, and see if you can work out, well, if I was standing like that, what sort of angle would my body be at? So let's have a quick look. He's going to be leaning back. I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to stand up and just copy that pose. Right. I know you can't see me, but you can imagine what I'm doing. So let's have a look. Okay, now if I was standing like that, I'm putting my feet exactly how that model's feet is, and I'm angling my body. Now I've got to imagine that I'm holding a gun and I've got my power fist up in the air. How would my body be? I'd be leaning slightly back, and I'm going to be leaning at an angle roughly the way that my leg is up on the wolf. Okay, so I've worked that out. So I'm going to be leaning back slightly, and I'm going to be angling my leg towards the wolf like that. Okay, so now we know roughly where we're going to have that body. So let's get gluing. Now this time I'm going to use plastic glue. Now I know it takes longer, but it gives me the option, it takes longer to dry, but it gives me the option of moving this around if I need to. So I'm going to put some plastic glue in, then I'm going to just dab it here so that it goes onto the legs. I'm going to give that just a couple of seconds just to bond to each side. Okay, so that should have bonded nicely. Let's just stick it into position, like so. So it's going to be leaning back slightly, not too much though. And he's going to be angling his body towards that leg, which is sort of in the up position. So here we go, something like that. There you are. Looking pretty cool. Okay, so whilst that is drying, I'm going to move on and do some more work. So the next job is to drill out some holes for the magnets to go. So I'm going to be using these 2x1mm magnets, and the plan is I'm going to magnetise the 3 gun options onto one arm. So the arm will be glued on and the gun options will be magnetised, and then on the other arm I'm going to magnetise the power fist arm and the sword arm. So let's drill some holes out. So yeah, these can be quite tricky drilling out in the hands because there is not much let's say margin for error, but if you do drill out and maybe you know you mess it up slightly, you can always go back in and just green stuff in the little error. So don't get too worried about it. Okay, so let's just find the centre. And I'm going to drill out a little hole. Just do it very gently. Have your magnets handy so that you can dry fit one, see how deep the hole is. I need to go in a little bit more. Just zoom in a little bit, hopefully it will focus. So it's nearly there, just a little bit more. Okay, perfect. So it's that one done. So I'm going to do that on the other two gun options. Okay, so that's the holes drilled out in the gun barrels themselves. Now I'm going to go to the power fist and I'm going to drill out a hole in the power fist joint. I may end up using a slightly bigger magnet for this joint, but we'll see how we get on. Those little N52 magnets are actually pretty powerful. Just make sure we got the hole big enough. Yep, that's big enough. So that's for that joint. Now, which is the right arm and which is the left? That's it. So that's the left arm. That's going to be permanently glued. This is the right arm, so this will be magnetised. Now I know some people like to magnetise the shoulder pads. I generally just glue the shoulder pad on and just have two different shoulder pads. I've got a massive box of shoulder pads in my bits box, so that's not an issue in terms of trying to save the amount of shoulder pads that I use. So that's those two drilled in, and this model now should be pretty glued. It's glued enough, so what I'm going to do, I probably should have actually done this before I'd glued the body onto the legs, but you know, that's the way it goes. So I'm going to just hold the actual body, so I'm not actually going to be interfering with that piece that we've just glued, and just going to drill a hole into the middle of that section there. Like so. Okay. So again, just put that gently down because he is effectively still drying there. And while he continues to dry, we're going to glue some magnets in. Now what I like to do is I like to have the magnets the same way if I can. Just makes life a lot easier. So I'm going to use this yellow topper that I've got here, and I'm going to use the yellow topper to put the magnets into the actual gun sections. So anything exterior as such is going to have the yellow topper end, and then when it comes to doing it on the actual body, I'm going to use the opposite way round. Just a little system that I've got. Okay, so I think I might have to just come out a little bit. Right, I'm going to mix up some green stuff. So we've got some green stuff here. So zoom out, put some green stuff. And we don't need a huge amount of this, but if we have extra, it's not a problem because we've got to do those effects on the wolf. So let's just grab some yellow. Sticky stuff sometimes though, especially if it's hot weather. I always tend to mix up too much, but there you go. So get equal amounts of this. There we go. So I'm just going to mix that up. Okay, so that's mixed up. So what I'm going to do is going to roll it up into a little sort of point. I'm going to just pop some into that join. Just use my finger now just to cut it off almost. So into that joint, fingernail into that joint and fingernail, and I haven't drilled out the hand yet, that's fine. So let's do these ones first then. So I've got my little magnets. I am going to use my file and I'm going to basically take one magnet off, pop it onto my file like so, grab some super glue, Pop some super glue on the magnet. Don't put the super glue onto the green stuff because the green stuff will instantly go hard and not be usable. So pop it onto the magnet, push that into the hole, slide it off, and then just use the back of your fingernails. Always handy, doesn't tend to stick very easily to that compared to say your fingerprints, and just push that in, just make sure it's nice and flush, which it is there. So just put that one aside. Now I've gone probably put a bit too much super glue on there, it's gone a little bit messy, so just get some tissue and just dab that off a bit. It's on the side of the gun. There you go. Okay, so next one, grab that magnet, a little bit of super glue, but not so much this time. I put a bit too much on that first one, sort of splodged out a bit. There you go. So next one is here, push that in, slide that away, and then again just use your thumbnail, fingernail, just to get that nice and flush. It's that one, and then the last one, not going to use that magnet because it's got glue on it already. Sometimes you've got to push it in quite hard, especially if you've got green stuff in there, because sometimes the green stuff will just push out the side. If you can't get it flush, just push it in and then the green stuff will just pop out the side, and then you can just scrape the green stuff off. Okay, although I'm very confident they're all in the right way, where's the super glue lid? Here it is. I am going to just check, but I'm not going to check with the actual magnetising because we don't want to pull the magnet out. I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to check the other way. So in other words, this shouldn't stick. 1, not sticking. 2, not sticking. 3, not sticking. Excellent. So they are all in the correct way. So let's just put those over there to dry. And we're now going to do the arm that these are actually going to magnetise to. So again, we're going to drill out a little hole. Try and find the central piece. Now if you have trouble finding the centre piece, you can go in with a very small drill bit first. But, well, I don't generally have too many problems, so I'm just going to go in with the big one. Just making sure that I'm going in at a good angle. I don't want to come out the side of the arm or anything silly. So let's have a look at the magnet, how deep that is. Yeah, that's perfect. I'm just going to grab one of these because this might be at a funny angle. So I think the actual original arm is like angled in, so it's going on his chest. And actually I think I want it more straighter, so what I'm going to do is just cut this off so that I get a more straighter sort of angle. That's better. Okay, let's make sure the hole's still big enough for the magnet, which it isn't now, so let's just go in a little bit deeper. Nearly there, just a tiny bit more. That's it. Okay, so we're going to get some green stuff and put a little bit of green stuff into that join. Now our magnets, remember, we've got to go the opposite now, so now I do that, turn it over, grab the magnet, and here we go. A little bit of super glue on there, and we'll push that one into position. Okay, push it in, make sure that you've got a nice flush angle. And that's arm done. Now that arm is going to be glued to the actual model. But we'll wait until we've got the gun magnetised on there before we actually glue it, so we can get a feel for the angle. So I'm just preparing for that. Okay, so now we're going to do the other arm. So first of all, we need to put some magnets into the actual arm itself. So again, green stuff. Put a bit of green stuff into the hole and into this hole. Okay, grab our magnets, and once again, because we're using, well, these basically going into the shoulder, so I'm going to go this way with the polarity, so that one's going to go into there. Like so. A little bit of glue. And then push that in. Make sure that's nice and flush, and then do the same for the other one. Okay, just going to push that in a little bit more, a bit too much green stuff in there. There you go, green stuff came out as I pushed it in. So that's those done. I'm just going to go back to this arm and just double check the polarity. Right, yeah, not gluing, well, not fixing, and just make sure these are in the right way. So, yeah, they're in the right way. Okay, so now we are going to do the other sections, which is on the body. Okay, so now we're going to glue a magnet into the actual body itself, so it goes the opposite way round. So I'm just going to grab one of these off. So I've had to put some more magnets onto the run because it's difficult to hold, but yeah, take one off, get our little tool, pop that on there, a little bit of super glue, like so, and we haven't put no green stuff in there, so that's okay, that super glue will be alright. So pop some green stuff in, like so, and then our magnet. There we go. White penny surplus green stuff. Right, so that's I think all of the magnet joints done. It's just confirmed. So we've got one in there, one, and then one in each one of those. Yeah. Okay. So let's just take a few minutes, let that dry totally, and then we'll be back and just test that all out. Okay, so as that's drying, I am going to do the next stage with the green stuff because I've got some green stuff left over, and I'm going to push that green stuff into the back of this wolf head, and then I'm going to effectively try and make it look like blood and guts. So the wolf head is going to go on the base this way. So I'm going to get my green stuff tools, and I'm going to just push it in, just make sure it's sort of nice and tight as such. Obviously I've got those holes already drilled out, so that means the green stuff goes into the holes quite nicely. And I'm just going to imagine that's on the base. So let's get the base. It's going to be, which way? That way. So it's going to be like that. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this down a bit. Now, it doesn't really have to be too special, this, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be covering this, or we're going to be painting it in red, and we're going to be covering it in blood. So just wet that tool a bit. Just want it to look like it's like blood and guts coming down. So it can be quite random. There you go. So that looks pretty cool. I'm also going to add a bone. Well, I've got a cocktail stick. I'm just going to cut this cocktail stick. And I'm going to pop that. That's way too big. Going to pop that into the green stuff in a central position. Like so. Cool, how about that? That is one dead wolf. His head has not been cut off, it's been ripped off. Just zoom in a bit closer for you, forgot I was so far away. Right, there you go, so you've got like a little bone in there, some green stuff. It's pretty cool, and I don't know how realistic, I have no idea what sort of bones and stuff would come out of a wolf head when he gets his head chopped off, but it looks pretty cool. So I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to leave that to dry, so just put that over there. Okay, so now I'm just going to check the magnets. So first of all, we've got the arm working quite nicely, and the power fist doing the job nicely, and then on the other side we've got the arm, which obviously is going to be glued on, and then we've got the plasma pistol, the bolt gun, and the bolt pistol. So everything's looking pretty cool there. So whilst I've got the green stuff still, I'm going to go in and I'm just going to fill in these two little gaps that I've got here, where we've just done the conversion on the legs. So just going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to get some green stuff. I'm going to start off by rolling it into like a little oblong shape, and then using my colour shaper, just going to grab that and I'm just going to pop it into the join. I'm literally just going to push it into the gap. And around the other side, I need a little bit more. I'm just wetting the colour shaper, literally just with my mouth. You don't want it actually covered in water, but it helps just to stop it from sticking. So now I'm just going to literally squeeze it into the gap. So this is very basic green stuff work, but as I said in that video about green stuff, you know, it's always a good idea really to start with basic stuff. So that's in the groove. Now obviously Space Marines don't have flat areas behind their legs. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use my knife. I'm just going to go in and do a little line going around that green stuff. Like so. And like so. So look at that. It's looking pretty cool. And obviously once we get paint on there, you're not really gonna see any difference. Okay, so that's that groove. I'm just gonna clean up that bit there slightly. A tiny bit of green stuff sticking up. There we go. Faithful knife. Okay, just going to have a look at the top joint. Now at the back it's okay, and at the front it's actually pretty clean, to be fair. I'm going to put a very tiny slither of green stuff just in that join. So I'm just going to pick that up, pop it into the join, and then just pop it in and just spread it around a bit. Just going to use the knife to take it out. It's literally I just need just a tiny slither. Pretty cool. Going to go in because there's a pattern. Just going to make sure the pattern is still there. Yep. Okay, so that's all dried. So the next stage that I want to do is glue on the sword onto the arm. So that's this arm here. So it's going to be in that sort of position. He's going to be holding the sword up like so. So a bit of plastic glue this time. Okay, so a bit of plastic glue, one section, get some glue out, there we go, right, a little piece on that side, then I'm going to just touch there so that the glue goes on both sides, and then just leave that for a few seconds for that to bond up a little bit. So whilst that's drying, I am going to glue on the other arm just onto here. Okay, so worked out the rough position. I'm going to get some glue, and again just going to put some glue on one side and then on the other side, let them bond, and then I'm going to glue them together. Now I've noticed that my battery is very low, so if it dies then hopefully you won't miss too much. Until I recharge it, I'll have to start the video again. Okay, it's one. I'm just going to put a dab on this side. There. Okay, let that bond, and I'm going to glue them together. Okay, so that's bonded now, and squash them in. I'm going to get one gun on here just to see roughly what it's going to look like. So let's just get that sword. Now let's do the power fist so I don't touch that one as it's still drying. So power fist is going to be up in the air. He's going to be on the base, his arm, foot up, I think. Probably something like that, and it's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to leave that into position. Right, the battery is literally just about to die, so I'm going to recharge up everything, the lights and the battery, and we continue with the conversion. Okay, so it's a few hours later and everything now is fully dry, so I'm just going to move on to the next stage. Now the first thing I want to do is go back to this wolf head with that little stick in. Obviously we only just pushed that stick into the green stuff, so I just want to make sure that's really nicely fixed. I'm just going to add just a little dab of super glue just around the base of that stick so it seeps into the hole, and just make sure that it's nicely stuck in there. So that's the first thing I want to do. Right, next we need to do the shoulder pads. So let's get working on the shoulder pads. So first of all, we've got this fixed arm, and I've got quite a nice shoulder pad here with like a bullet hanging down, so I'm going to put that onto the fixed arm there. That'd be pretty cool. So let's get gluing that. So I'm going to need some plastic glue for this. So just pop plastic glue into the shoulder pad. The plastic glue seems to be getting a bit low, but it's still okay. Okay, and then just going to dab that into position like so. Just leave that off for a couple of minutes and let that settle in. In the meantime, we've got this sword arm to put a shoulder pad on, so let's just put the sword arm on. Okay, so that's going to be something like that. So I'm just going to, this time, because I don't want to get the glue spread about too much in the wrong area, I'm actually going to put the glue onto the arm directly like that, and then I'm going to put some glue into the shoulder pad. And then on the other shoulder pad and arm. Blob on there and a blob on the power fist. As I said, you could magnetise one shoulder pad onto both if you really wanted to. Right, so let's go back to the fixed arm, this one here with the little bullet hanging down, and just going to place that into position. Just make sure it looks about right. Yep, and I've just put my finger on the other arm, but that's okay, there's still enough glue on there. And I'm going to pop the other shoulder pad onto the other arm. Now obviously this is magnetised, so once we've got it into position, like so, I'm literally just going to take that off. Just make sure it's in the right position. There you go, it's that one. Put that down there to dry, and then put on the power fist, and once again just pop on the shoulder pad like so, just making it into a nice position, and pop off the power fist. So I put those two aside and the body to dry, and then we'll have a look at the next stage. Okay, so the next stage I'm going to put on the backpack. So I've got my backpack there. Just going to again use some plastic glue for this. Onto the hole, and then usual thing, pop it into position first, just leave it there for a few seconds to dry, and the head is next, and then we've got these little pocket things which I think I'm going to use. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm going to see how it looks first. Just give that a second just to bond. Okay, so that's bonded. So now we are going to put this together. So pop it into place and then look both ways just to make sure that it's level. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So we know that he's going to be standing something like that. So I'm just going to have a look at the backpack thing now. Not the backpack, sorry, the leather things, which I'm going to put on because I think it'd be pretty nice for us to paint some leather up when we do the painting side of things. So I'm going to take these and put them on. So again, a plastic glue. Come on then. There we go. Right, some plastic glue. And then grab hold of it. And I think I'm going to put them right on the back because where he's got like a twisted body, the back area is pretty exposed. So just make sure that looks alright. I think I might just move it over slightly, just to the side. Yeah, that's better. Just gives them a little bit of extra detail. Right, so that's that. So now it is the head. Obviously the head we are going to have to pose with one of these, so let's just pop one of these on for now. So it's going to be probably in that upper position. So let's get some glue, plastic glue again. And I think I'm going to have to buy myself another tube. So again, put the head on and then take it off again. So give that a second just to melt a little bit as such. Okay, so now we're going to put the head into position. And as I said previously, I want him this sort of dynamic, looking up at the sword pose. Okay, I think he's looking pretty cool. Let's just get that base and just check how he's actually going to look. So it's going to be like that. Oh yes, he looks sweet. I think he needs to be, I think, round a little bit more. Yeah. Oh yeah. That is cool. Right, there he is. So let's just take that off there. Right, so I'm happy with everything there. So the last thing to do, which is the piece where we're going to get it ready for painting, and that is to super glue in that big pin that we had earlier. And that's going to go into the foot. Now, I'm not going to worry about pinning him to the actual base at this stage because I'm going to leave him off of the base for painting. I find it's a lot easier to paint your models when they're not on their bases, and then I shall just pin that on after everything's been painted. So this is literally the last thing to do. So let's get some super glue like this. Pop it onto here. You saw that just drip down onto the board. That's fine. That's why we're using a board and not our expensive coffee table. Okay, going to push that into his foot. There we go. Excellent. So that's that. There you go. All done. That is now ready for painting. So I really hope you enjoyed watching me build that model. As I said, the next stage is to paint it. So we are going to have a look at painting. First of all, we're going to look at priming. Then we're going to talk about paint brushes. We're going to talk about paints, and then we're going to start painting them. So thanks very much for watching as always, and I shall see you in the next video.